this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Keel. Oh, sorry.
Motion to amend the agenda
Okay.
to postpone 7A to the next Finance and Administration meeting.
Motion to postpone 7A. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Do we take comments on postponements?
I don't have any.
No, no comments? Questions?
Comment? Well, I was going to ask as to the purpose of it as opposed to addressing it.
Well, Madame Treasurer was away on vacation last week, and I have some new information that I want to share with her about an alternate route, reduced budget, and I'd like to meet with her with Councillor Jacquino and discuss it.
Okay, so I will call the question. If there are no more questions, all in favor of postponing 7A? And it's unanimous. Thank you. Now I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting agenda as amended by Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? The Parks and Recreation minutes of October 17th were circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I take a motion to approve. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Plummer, all in favor? Any business arising from those minutes? Nope, seeing none. New business. And Angela is not here, so I would imagine Mr. Unwa will report. Oh, she is here, sorry. Can't see her yet. Okay, Angela, she's going to report on general municipal insurance. Hi, Angela.
Hi, thank you. So the Treasury Department recommends that committee approve the proposal submitted by Intact Public Entities in partnership with Western Financial Group for general insurance and risk management services for a 3-year period, January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026, with an option to renew for a 4th and subsequent 5th year based on satisfactory performance, service, mutual agreement, and annual premium negotiations. So a request for proposal was issued on September 21st, 2023 for general insurance and risk management services for both the City of Pembroke and our local boards starting the 2024 calendar year. So we did request a comprehensive insurance coverage similar to the insurance coverages the city currently has. A total of 1 proposal was submitted by our current insurer, Intact Public Entities, in partnership with Western Financial Group. And we did receive feedback that in the bidding process that due to some open claims and the city's limited ability to provide details on them, given that they're ongoing legal matters, certainly prevented a few bids from being submitted due to the level of risk that the municipality was seen as having. So in terms of financial implications, the expected cost for insurance for 2024 under Intact Public Entities is expected to be $716,991 plus tax, as compared to a 2023 renewal of $679,640. So this is an annual cost increase of just over $37,000 for the renewal year, which is lower than previous years. The city will receive updated costs annually based on our risk profile. So direction from committee is requested. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Treasurer, for your report. Just a quick question in regards to the mitigation efforts in terms of the risks. You talked a little bit about them. Can you kind of maybe just identify some of those? Are those just like potential legal claims against the city? And is there a way that we can mitigate those risks going forward, or do we have a strategy? And I guess maybe that question would be for our our CAO in regards to mitigating those risks?
Thank you. So currently the city has two large claims related to building code issues. So those are, certainly one-offs and very specific, to the circumstance. But I would say the city, generally speaking, is seeing higher slip and claim falls, and certainly dedicating more funding to our sidewalk renewal is something that will be proposed as part of the 2024 budget.
Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, seeing none, I would call, we need a motion to approve. Oh, sorry, the mayor?
Yeah, no, I was just going to make a motion that we proceed as with the recommendation to award to that particular company.
So moved by the mayor, seconded by Deputy Mayor Abdallah. All in favor? Accepted. Thank you. Next, thank you, Angela. Parking on Center Street. Mr. Hutton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you're all familiar with, this parking matter on Center Street has been an evolving issue, but the briefest of summaries. So back in the past summer of 2023, after receiving complaints, one of our bylaw enforcement officers reviewed the parking bylaw and found that the portion of Center Street in question was in fact a no parking zone on both sides of the street, despite there being a lack of signage to reflect this. As such, signage was installed accordingly to accurately reflect the parking bylaw. Soon after this was done, concerns were raised by the owners of Grey Gables Inn, whose property backs onto the applicable portion of Center Street. These concerns were that the on-street parking to the rear of their property, that they used and required it to support the running of their business. They then met with the mayor and city staff to propose that on-street parking be returned to Center Street, but only on the western side. This proposal was recommended to Combined Committee of Council, and it had the support of the Planning, Building and Bylaw Departments, the Operations Department, and the Pembroke Fire Department. The committee did approve the applicable amendments to the parking bylaw, and as such, the signage was reconfigured accordingly. Now fast forward to present, and a complaint has now been received from the property owner of 329 McKay Street, which is Grey Gables' immediately abutting neighbor and also happens to be one of two properties that backs onto this applicable portion of Center Street. Their complaint, which you've received in your agenda packages, details how, after the initial installation of no parking signs on Center Street, they had actually significantly benefited 329 McKay Street in allowing for greater visibility and safety for their vehicles egressing onto Center Street. And so this property owner is now requesting that a no parking zone be reestablished on the western side of Center Street, but only at the rear of their property, not the portion to the rear of Grey Gables Inn. We have consulted with the owners of Grey Gables Inn, who are amenable to the solution that's being proposed. The solution is that, again, the no parking zone be reestablished on the western side of Center Street, but to the rear of 329 McKay Street. This would result in the loss of just a single on-street parking space, but would still allow for the portion of Center Street directly behind Grey Gables to be used for on-street parking. And again, both the owners of Grey Gables as well as the owners of 329 McKay Street are amenable to this recommendation. And therefore, the Planning, Building and Bylaw Department is recommending on this matter that the parking bylaw be amended to add the western side of Center Street from Alfred Street to a point approximately 132 feet south as a no parking zone to Schedule C of the parking bylaw. Now further, on a separate housekeeping matter, at the November 7th meeting of Finance and Administration Committee, the committee received a petition regarding the need for a crosswalk at Bell Street. Staff performed an inspection of the area and found that signage there indicates that there is a no stopping zone on both sides, indicated on both sides of Bell Street. So when reviewing the parking bylaw in this case, the parking bylaw states that this is a no parking area. So we are looking to amend the parking bylaw to reflect the existing no stopping signage. And this would be an amendment to Schedule I, no stopping zones of the parking bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions, Councillor Plummer, and then Councillor Keel.
In regards to the no parking on Center Street, I think it's a good working together situation where the homeowner is working with the business, and I would certainly motion that we approve that item as presented by staff and the reinstallation of 2 no parking signs at Center Street for a cost of approximately $200.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, Councillor Plummer, and then we have a comment. Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor, seconded. Comment, Councillor Keel.
So I think it was 2 weeks ago when we were here talking about Supple Street, or it might have been 4 weeks ago. And one of the things that I said, is this going to set a precedent that single houses are going to keep coming back for us? I'm not going to support this. I think when we're looking at parking zones, we need to look at things generally, but with an eye on safety. This person's specific complaint is that there's lower visibility and you have to come out onto the other side of the road. Well, perhaps the next meeting of council, we can discuss the parking on William Street at my house, because when cars are parked there for the courthouse, there's lower visibility for me to get out of my driveway, and I need to turn out onto the other lane of William Street. So if we're going to do these one by one throughout the entire city, I mean, you know, let's just have a special meeting twice a year and get them all out of the way with. But again, there's no special complaint here. And I guess my question to the planning department is, what criteria are we using to approve or disapprove these? Or are we just approving everyone one by one when somebody says, behind my house, I want this fixed? Because that's literally what we have in front of us, is we looked at the whole street several months ago with Grey Gables. We said that this would work. The recommendation was that this would be fine. And the only thing we have in front of us now is a generic complaint that every single person with street parking can complain about in every single property. So what criteria are we using to judge this? And is this council really going to do this one by one every time someone doesn't like parking in front of their house? Because I got to tell you, most people don't like parking in front of their house. So I'm going to be opposed to this just because, again, I don't see a special case here.
Mr. Hutton, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, we do try to look at the overall big picture of the situation. In this case, again, as only a single on-street parking space is being lost, and further, I believe there's some imaging that's been distributed in your agenda packages, and possibly it's not detailed enough, but if you are looking from the rear of 929 McKay Street to the corner of Alfred Street, the vast majority of this is effectively, it's their egress. So there's actually very, very little space that this would actually apply to. It's already effectively, you can't park across this very, very wide egress. This would just be eliminating a single space. And now that this new information has come to light, it's being viewed as a fair compromise, and that it would suit the street overall as a whole.
Further comments? Mayor Jerva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So certainly I echoed Councillor Keel's position in respect to the walkway, particularly that last time where the individual also had a walkway that went to the driveway, which went to the side street. This particular one, I share the planning's position in respect to, when I look at the photos, you know, clearly the majority of it is their parking. I wouldn't even call it a driveway. I think it's a parking lot. In fact, I've driven by, and that whole area, as people drive up towards the building, is cars, because it's more or less an apartment building more than just a house. And so it's just filled with cars and so forth. So I don't take it, it's not, to me, in my mind, it's not a walkway, it's an entire parking lot. And so why would you park in front of it in any event? The only spot, I guess, that's being lost is in front of that beige building, or I think it's a beige building. So anyways, I would support the particular motion, and I recognize that for some it might seem foolhardy that one by one we're looking at it, but in this particular case, I have no issue in terms of doing a case by case. In terms of the walkway, I still have an issue with it, but council approved it, so.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I have no issue. It takes up one parking space, and like Councillor Plummer said, it's supporting the business, and the two neighbors agree to the compromise, so I don't see an issue. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments, there is a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? It carries. Thank you. No further business. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor, sorry,
Madam Chair, I just want to apologize to your worship, members of council, for my lateness.
no problem. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for November 21st. I'd ask that everyone please take a moment to stand for an opening prayer and/or reflection. This evening, as we contemplate about the business that we have before us this evening, I wish to bring to council members' attention, and I would ask that you please keep this individual in your thoughts, is Mr. Malcolm Montgomery, who is known, I think, to everyone, or should be known to everyone, involved in the community with the Kiwanis Club, the Action Club, you name it. Mr. Montgomery was involved in it. And in addition to all of that, he served on the Police Services Board since April of 2019. Mr. Malcolm Montgomery passed away yesterday. And so I would ask that you keep him in your thoughts as we consider the business before our meeting tonight. So before opening this meeting with council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest that they wish to disclose this evening? Seeing none, when we get to 7A, I will be disclosing perceived pecuniary interest as that matter involves James W. LaPointe Motor Holdings, and the office of Shepherd and Jerva is involved with LaPointe Motor Holdings as their solicitor. Moving ahead to minutes, we have the regular meeting of council November 7, 2023. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of those minutes. I have the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Next set of minutes for this evening is a special meeting of council that was held November 14th, 2023. I have Councillor Plummer and then seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have adoption of minutes from various committees. This evening, we have Parks and Recreation Committee of October 17th, 2023. Entertain a motion for those. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? And that is carried. We're then moving to receiving minutes from local boards. We have one this evening, being the Pembroke Heritage Murals Committee, November 1st, 2023. I have Councillor Jacquinot, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. Next on our agenda for this evening, we have staff committees and reports. First is Code of Conduct complaint. Mr. Unruh, are you? Okay, Mr. Unruh?
Yes, Your Worship. So on the, joining us by Zoom is the Integrity Commissioner for the City of Pembroke, Mr. Tony Fleming. So a complaint was filed, and his office has done the inspection and has done the report. The report is attached, so he's here to present his report. And at the end of that, he'll be asking for a resolution that will need to be adopted, refuse, or amend the recommendation as presented in the Code of Conduct complaint final report.
Thank you. And so Ms. And it was up there, Ms. Schoeneman?
Yes, sorry. Joining Ms. Fleming, Mr. Fleming is Lisa Schoeneman.
And there's Mr. Fleming. Good evening.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council.
If you wanted to take it from there?
Certainly, Your Worship, and thank you, and through you. So Council has a copy of the report that's being presented tonight. Just in terms of general process, the report itself is our final report. So when I'm presenting reports like this to council, I always mention to council, remind them that the report is final. What we are here to do tonight is to provide a very high-level summary of the report's findings, but we're not here to debate with council those findings or how we arrived at those findings. What we're here to address with council is the recommendations that are contained in the report, And obviously, we're happy to take questions from council about those recommendations. The role that council is given with respect to an integrity commissioner report from the Municipal Act is to determine how the report will be made public. In this case, I can't recall, because I didn't look at the agenda, as to whether the report itself was made, or was included rather, in the agenda. If it was, council may determine that having it as part of a public agenda is sufficient to make it public, but that decision is up to council. Council is also then tasked under the Act with addressing the recommendations that we make in the report. Similar to any report council receives from staff, council is obviously the sole arbiter of what to do with those recommendations. You can accept them, reject them, or by amendment, modify them. That's obviously council's decision. We simply make the recommendations to council. With respect to the report itself, there is some timing pieces that I would like to mention to council that aren't identified in the report. And this is my apology to council. In September of this year, we provided a draft of the report to Councillor Purcell. We considered his comments on the report. I then finalized the report and gave it to my staff to provide to council. Then later on, late October, November, Mr. Unrau sent me an email asking me where my report was. And when I talked to my staff, I realized that we had a turnover in staff, and the new staff member wasn't told by the old staff member that the report was finalized and was supposed to be sent to council in September. So for that delay, which is entirely our fault, I do apologize to council. With respect to the report itself, it is very self-explanatory. I don't believe I need to go into too much detail, but I do want to reiterate that the findings are effectively non-contentious in the sense that there was a recording on YouTube of the comments that were the subject matter of the complaint. So there's no dispute as to what was said, who said it. The issue for us to resolve during the investigation portion was to determine whether or not those comments constituted a breach of the code of conduct. And as you can tell by reading the report, our finding was that it was a breach of the code of conduct. We find that this was a breach because of not just the words, but the forum in which those words were uttered. Council is able to discipline, for lack of a better word, staff. Typically that is done through the CAO. The issue that we take with this particular incident is that staff were effectively subject to a form of performance review in an open session of council that was recorded and is now on YouTube. I'm aware of no corporation, municipal or otherwise, that conducts staff performance reviews on YouTube. It is simply not appropriate to use the public forum to do that to staff. And that is the essence of not just the finding, but also the recommendation that the councillor have his remuneration suspended for 15 days. And I do want to take a moment to reiterate to council that although the recommendation is a pecuniary interest as defined under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and normally the councillor would have to declare and not participate, etc., there is a specific provision of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act that allows the member of council to speak to the matter of the penalty and the penalty only, and that in and of itself does not constitute a pecuniary interest or a breach of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. The member is still not entitled to vote on the matter, obviously, but there is that specific exception with respect to penalty that the member can speak to should he desire. With that, Your Worship, I'm happy to take questions from council with respect to the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fleming? If I can ask Mr., because I'm not immediately seeing people putting up their hand, if I can ask a question in terms of, so if the breach part is, from what I can understand from you, but correct me if I'm wrong, because certainly this council, in my experience, has never had to deal with this type of a situation. Mind you, I did look back, and this concept of a code of conduct and whatnot, from what I can gather, only came about after there was this, I'm looking at George Rusty's a document that I found online talking about that there was this, not an inquiry, but there was a situation and recommendations made, and then ultimately there was changes to the Municipal Act. But in terms of then the penalty portion, are you able to, you mentioned the item in terms of the form of the breach and so forth, is that the, and I'm not trying to put, direct you or something, but I'm trying to understand, is that the rationale as to how you came to the recommendation in terms of the penalty?
Oh, certainly, Your Worship, and through you. There is no guidance document, for lack of a better way to put it, with respect to penalty. What I consider when I'm making a recommendation to council is the nature of the breach, the seriousness of the breach, and also what I feel is necessary for council to consider by way of ensuring that the member has a penalty imposed that is significant enough to deter a future breach. And in circumstances like this, where it is staff members who are the subject matter of the commentary, I also believe it's important for the amount of the penalty to be significant enough to demonstrate to staff that council does not condone the behavior and that they expect the behavior will not continue.
Thank you. Is there any additional, Councillor Purcell?
Or the last time that I actually wrote something on paper got me into trouble. So, good evening. So my father and mother, God rest their souls, always taught me to stand strong for what you believe in, speak up and be heard. My father was a Korean War veteran. My grandfather was killed when the HMCS Ottawa was sunk by a German U-boat in World War II. My nephew was killed in Afghanistan. I have other members of my family that continue to serve and have served their country honorably. In fact, I honored their service just a few short weeks ago through the laying of a wreath at the Pembroke Cenotaph on Remembrance Day. They served in order that we have the freedoms that we have today. This includes the right of freedom of opinion and expression, which includes freedom to hold opinions without interference. Being compelled to apologize for raising municipal transparency and accountability concerns, I feel, and in my opinion, is a violation of the freedoms that so many have and continue to fight for to this day. In response to the findings of the investigation report, my intent as a new councillor of just 5 months was to improve transparency and accountability. My intent was not to cause harm to anyone, but simply express my opinions, challenges, and frustrations as a newly elected representative of the people of Pembroke. I am a doer, and I have a reputation of getting things done in a timely manner, moving quickly on initiatives while ensuring due diligence. The signature line at the bottom of my email sums up my approach. It states, "You can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water." I do recognize that municipal government, in fact, all levels of government, typically move at a snail's pace, and I can see how this environment conflicts with my character. Since my comments of April 18th, we now have a bylaw posted on the city website dealing with the sale of public lands, allowing increased public knowledge of the processes, therefore increasing transparency. We now have implemented procedural bylaw provisions detailing revised virtual council meeting participation timelines with shortened attendance notification periods. We now have a revised procurement policy that limits legal resources contracts to be held for no greater than 5 years. We now address matters brought forward at the initial council meeting and then vote to implement bylaws at the next council meeting, allowing concerned parties to attend council meetings to voice their supports and concerns. We now have agenda packages posted in a timely manner promoting transparency, and we have implemented an indemnification policy limiting personal liabilities of all the council members around this table, board members, employees, and volunteers of the City of Pembroke. My goal of promoting transparency and accountability in municipal government continues, and I'm proud to be the driver of the changes thus far. The role of council is defined in Section 224 of the Municipal Act. The role of council under Section D to ensure the administrative policies, practices, and procedures and controllership policies, practices, and procedures are in place to implement the decisions of council. D1, to ensure the accountability and transparency of the operations of the municipality, including the activities of the senior management of the municipality. Please hear me clearly. Again, my intent, and I am the only person fully aware and knowing my true intent, was not to disrespect staff, but to spur change and the responsiveness of the concerns and the needs of our constituents, therefore increasing transparency and accountability. I am perplexed as to why the informal complaint procedure, as part of the Code of Conduct process, detailed in the city's Code of Conduct policy, was not pursued prior to the formal complaint process for this complaint, especially for a new councillor of only 5 months. The informal process is promoted as being the initial step for individuals, and individuals are encouraged to pursue the informal complaint procedure as the first means of remedying behavior or any activity that they believe violates the Code of Conduct. This did not occur. This formal investigation also contributes to significant additional expenses to the City of Pembroke, while the informal process does not contribute to costs. In closing, I stand behind the comments I made on April the 18th detailing my opinions and experiences as a new City of Pembroke councillor. In fact, another councillor agreed with the opinions and experiences I expressed at that very meeting. This being said, I do now recognize that I have concern, or that if I have concerns about staff competencies or their individual performance, that matters be discussed in closed session and or addressed through the performance management processes. If it is council's decision to implement the recommendations of the Integrity Commissioner supporting the 15-day financial period, I hope that council will consider donating my stipend for the suspension period to St. Joseph's Food Bank, as they are in desperate need of food and donations due to the increasing food uncertainties and high demand around the Christmas season. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell. Other comments? I think Councillor Keel, did you have your? Okay, Councillor Keel's next for comments. I believe, Mr. Fleming, that's what we're supposed to do, is provide, yes, okay. Councillor Keel.
So, I mean, I think if we're supposed to be assessing the penalty, I think we have to first assess how we got here, and I find this entire process to be sad and rather unfortunate and likely unnecessary. So, I too initially had a code of conduct complaint in the spring, roughly around the same time as Councillor Purcell. And I have to tell the councillors around this table that I find the process to be completely inappropriate. You get a letter from the Integrity Commissioner's office that says a complaint has been made against you, and he gives you a one-sentence summary of the complaint. He then refers you to a YouTube video where you are apparently supposed to watch a video of yourself, determine which section of the code you've breached, because his letter does not even include a reference to the code of conduct. So you're supposed to figure out which section you breached and how you breached it, and then you're supposed to respond. I spent over a week on a 23-page response to my complaint that almost the entirety of is hypothetical because you don't actually know what comment triggered your complaint. He doesn't provide you with the quote as he did in this final report. He doesn't tell you who the complainant was. You go to the landlord and tenant board, you know who your complainant is. And some people might say, well, Councillor Keel, they don't want any reprisal. When you are harassed and go to the Human Rights Tribunal, you know who your complainant is. You do not get told who made a complaint against you. You don't get told what section of the code you breached in your initial letter. You don't get told what specific words you said are afoul, but you're supposed to respond. And so I want all of council to know that is the initial process that you're supposed to respond to. And I would love to talk to the councillors around this table who aren't lawyers and ask you, how would you respond to that? Probably wouldn't be a 23-page response like mine, but I'm asking you seriously. How would you respond to that? So you submit your response. In my case, I then got a subsequent letter that said your matter has been withdrawn, and that's the end of that. There's no report on it. There's no, I guess most people here didn't know that I had a complaint because it was just withdrawn. Do I get that week of my time back defending myself in a 23-page report? I do not. What some members around this table might also not realize is you don't even have to be an elector to file a complaint. Someone from Petawawa can file a complaint against any of us. There's case law that says that. The Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, it previously set out clearly that, that you need to be an elector of your jurisdiction. The court reviewed the language of the Integrity Commissioner. It says any person with an interest. So the court said, see, you don't have to be an elector because the legislature said, use different wording. If they wanted you to have to be an elector, then they would have said it, but they didn't. We then review Councillor Purcell's report, and I got to tell you, in my opinion, a justice of the peace trying a traffic ticket would have to give better reasons than the reasons we find in this report. He sets out a list of comments, one of which, and I want to get it right, as an example, the meeting agenda for this council meeting was not even posted to the City of Pembroke website until mere hours prior to the meeting, impeding concerned citizens' knowledge of what we're discussing in our open meeting today and potentially hindering their attendance at this evening's meeting. Our Integrity Commissioner found those words of Councillor Purcell to be disrespectful because he made a factual statement that the agenda was not posted in accordance with our procedures. A factual statement. He didn't specifically name any staff member. He didn't specifically say that this was incompetent or anything. He made a factual statement, and this Integrity Commissioner is using this as an example of disrespect. Now, considering the comment that I just made a moment ago, what happens when we're around this table? I remember a couple weeks ago, I said, well, we don't have any partners in the pool. Is that somebody in the town of Laurentian Valley going to take that as disrespect, that I commented on the fact that they haven't stepped up to the table? Is there going to be a code of conduct complaint against me because that was a negative, disrespectful comment? And the reason I bring that up is because the reasoning from the Integrity Commissioner doesn't even say what his bar for disrespect is. None of us around this table can possibly know what this Integrity Commissioner's disrespect definition is. He doesn't say it in his report. He says, Councillor Purcell said these things, I find them to be disrespectful. I ask you, what else might be disrespectful? On occasion, debate gets a little heated around this table. Some of us have interrupted other people while speaking improperly. Is that disrespectful? Is that going to be a code of conduct complaint? Are you going to get a letter from the Integrity Commissioner, tell him that you need to respond because you acted disrespectfully, and then you get interviewed by the Integrity Commissioner, and then there's a report that embarrasses you in front of the entire citizenry of the City of Pembroke? We have no idea on what base. He just tells you that he finds it disrespectful. Again, even a justice of the peace has to explain how they got to their reasoning. We're talking about speech. Councillor Purcell raised his right to freedom of speech. Where is that in this report? And if you're wondering, well, should it be in a report? We do have another, there is another integrity commissioner who acts for a number of municipalities, including at least one here in the county of Renfrew. And he certainly discusses free speech in his report. And I'm gonna quote from it. It's a City of Brampton report. This is Integrity Commissioner DiGiorno, I believe. He writes, freedom of expression is a fundamental right in Canada, so the code must be interpreted in a manner consistent with this fundamental right. Based on the law set out below, I cannot find that the code should be interpreted to appoint the Integrity Commissioner as a speech referee in the political arena. As the Supreme Court of Canada noted in Committee for the Commonwealth of Canada v. Canada, and then there's a legal citation. So this is a quote from the Supreme Court. Freedom of expression, like freedom of religion, serves to anchor the very essence of our democratic, political, and societal structure. As expressed by Jackson J. in West Virginia State Board of Education v. Barnett, legal citation, if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. Robert J. Sharp explains the futility of basing this axiom merely upon some yearning for ultimate truth in commercial expression and the Charter. The essence of the marketplace of ideas argument is that control and regulation of expression is intolerable because we can trust no government to know the truth. Those who purport to legislate the truth invariably turn out to be tyrants. The marketplace of ideas argument prescribes an open process precisely because we cannot agree on what is the truth. Hence, the justification for the widest freedom of political speech stems not only from some abstract search for truth, but also from the tangible goal of preserving democracy. In the defamation context, the Supreme Court, and this would be the Canadian Supreme Court, noted in WIC Radio Limited v. Simpson, an individual's reputation is not to be treated as regrettable but unavoidable roadkill on the highway of public controversy, but nor should an overly solicitous regard for personal reputation be permitted to chill freewheeling debate on matters of public interest. Councillor Purcell was not attacking any specific staff member. He did not name any specific staff member. He was talking about process. And you can review every one of his comments. It's about process. The agenda not getting posted, him not getting documents and information. It was about process. Another quote from our own Supreme Court of Canada. This is from Prudhomme and Prudhomme in 2002. Elected municipal officials do not enjoy the parliamentary privilege enjoyed by members of the National Assembly of Quebec or the federal parliament. The English and Canadian courts, however, have held that words spoken at a meeting of a municipal council are protected by qualified privilege. Accordingly, the facts that words spoken at a meeting are defamatory does not in itself mean that a municipal councillor will be liable therefore. In order to succeed in his or her action, the plaintiff must prove malicious intent or intent to harm on the part of the councillor. The Supreme Court quotes from 1975, a House of Lords decision. My lords, what is said by members of a local council at meetings of the council or of any of its committees is spoken on a privileged occasion. The reason for the privilege is that those who represent the local government electors should be able to speak freely and frankly, boldly and bluntly on any matter which they believe affects the interests or welfare of the inhabitants. They may be swayed by strong political prejudice, they may be obstinate and pig-headed, stupid and obtuse, but they were chosen by the electors to speak their minds on matters of local concern, and so long as they do so honestly, they run no risk of liability. Now, this is a defamation case, not a code of conduct case, but I suggest to this council that the two are quite similar in this particular matter, where our code says that we need to speak respectfully or whatnot. Obviously, defamation is when you defame somebody. The conclusion of this case was that the respondent did not commit a fault. He spoke at the meeting on July 7th, 1997, to let the voters of Repentigny know that he opposed the council's decision not to appeal the judgment quashing bylaw 1055. He remained steadfast in the position he had argued throughout this judicial tale, and argued that it was not the responsibility of the entire population of that city in Quebec to pay the cost of the infrastructure work to extend Boulevard. The respondent was entitled to question the assessment of the facts done by the judge. The city itself had faulted the appellants for switching hats, portraying themselves. Moving on a little longer. Overall, the respondent acted in good faith with the aim of performing his duties as an elected municipal official. While his comments about the appellants were sometimes harsh, they were made in the public interest. The respondent did not abuse his right to comment and discuss public affairs that affected the municipality. If the respondent were to be found to have committed a fault in these circumstances, the right of freedom of discussion within the municipal political precincts would be dangerously undermined, and the vitality of democracy at the local level would be weakened. We around this table, elected by the people, have to be able to speak freely without worry, concern, and chill of being attacked for what we say. That doesn't give us a green light to do anything. But it does give us a right to speak freely, to do our jobs as the representatives of the people. We are not here like a corporate board where you look out for the best interests of the corporation. That is not what an elected council is for. Our one and only job is to represent the citizens in the best way that we can. That is completely different from a corporate board. Our integrity commissioner in his report didn't even address with any significance what our rights are to speak freely, what our constitutional Section 2 rights are. What I take away from this report is that we should all be talking and walking on eggshells for fear that we might have a report that we say something disrespectful, because we don't know what the definition of disrespect is. Now, does this mean that we can go and attack staff personally? Of course not. It absolutely does not mean that. But I think if any person goes and looks at the record of the transcript of Councillor Purcell, you would see very clearly, while it might not have been the most eloquent, while it might have had some oomph behind it, he was talking about process. He was not recommending that we discipline any staff. He was talking about process. And out of that meeting, as Councillor Purcell noted, there has been a lot of change, and I think change for the good. I think we all agree, change for the good. So when I look at this report, and then I get to the point, as the Integrity Commissioner correctly notes, that we are supposed to be passing judgment on a sanction, I'm mystified how the Integrity Commissioner picks the highest penalty that he could pick. He had an option: a reprimand or a financial penalty. I think we would all agree that a reprimand is less than a financial penalty. He chose the highest sanction that he could for Councillor Purcell's first offense for talking about process. Had a councillor sexually harassed a staff member in the city hall, the sanction would be a financial sanction. how can you equate, and I asked councillors around this table to look at Councillor Purcell's specific comments, how can you equate what you read there in front of you with the countless worse things that a councillor could do to get a financial penalty? I mean, think about that. I'm mystified how we get here. I'm clearly not happy with the process. I think we need to review our code of conduct bylaw. Not necessarily I'm not necessarily saying we need to change it to let us off the hook. I'm saying we need to change it to look at the process. Your rights to defend yourself. But in terms of the sanction, I'm going to be recommending. I am going to be moving two motions tonight, Your Worship. I'm going to move a motion that this council does not agree with everything contained in the report, a resolution of our opinion, and I'm going to move a resolution that Councillor Purcell not be sanctioned. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for indulging me, because I'm sure I went over 5 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Keel. Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, and thank you for keeping it short, Councillor Keel. I felt like I was in a courtroom here today debating something, and I'll ask you a question. I don't want you to be offended. Are you representing Councillor Keel as a client? Through you, Your Worship.
I am not Mr. Giacono, but what I will say to you is that this process, the Integrity Commission process, is a quasi-judicial process. That's what it is.
Very good. I'm trying to get my head around that, Your Worship. Having been a former mayor and dealt with a number of mayors and countless numbers of councillors, we all have an opinion, and I believe part of that opinion should be discussed and debated in a manner that is of a considerable, how would I put it, decency to the person you're addressing. It shouldn't be done in a way where you're feeling attacked, perhaps. And I think, of course, some things have happened. And Councillor Keel, of course, has alluded to the fact that they wouldn't have happened unless a certain type of demeanor had taken place and a certain member of the staff had been told that, you missed this, this is the first time. Things happen. We have a first-time CAO. You're talking about a first-time councillor. So on a perspective of that, we're dealing on the same basis. I respect Councillor Purcell for his audacity. And I mean, he's new on council, and there was a comment here one time that a couple of councillors said they didn't feel welcomed. Well, they didn't feel welcome because I felt that I was being attacked on certain things. The rest of the members were being attacked. The mayor was being attacked. The staff was being attacked. That's how I took it. And I'm trying to look at that in a perspective of decency and a perspective of looking how the other person would think, how staff would think. How would I feel if somebody said that to me and in that particular vein? Councillor Purcell says that what was it? Hard to cross the sea if you're standing on the shore. That's true, but it's really even harder to cross it if you're the only one paddling. You have to have some team effort. And I don't think perhaps, I don't know what he intended by that. He feels that he did not hurt anybody, but I think he did hurt some people's feelings. And I mean, if you say, well, you're here, you're paid, your feelings should be inconsequential, shouldn't have anything to do with it. But we're all human beings. We all take things personally sometime. And I mean, it's all, in Siberia, in Russia, they've got free speech. You can say whatever you want, but right after that, you're shipped to Siberia for 20 years. So there's free speech takes place there. We have free speech here, and we discuss it here. But I think what we have to understand is in the way that we debate. I mean, if we were throwing rocks at each other or swearing at each other, or just by our intonation inferring that a person was, incapable of carrying an idea by himself, that they didn't have the cranial or mental capacity to do so, I'd be a little put out. And I, as a mayor, as a councillor, I have been attacked by the public. There were nights I went home and I didn't sleep, but I'm a human being. I took that as a human being. And I thought about that. Why did that person say that to me? Am I really doing, that terrible a job that they have to attack me in those particular words? why didn't they phone me and say, you know, could I talk to you about this, or could we discuss this, and can we see if we can move forward, rather, you know, than making a demand? They wanted to know right now why they're, at 3 o'clock in the morning, why their driveway wasn't plowed. I was in bed. So I got up. I gave them the answer. I phoned them back the next night at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, well, excuse me, but I thought you'd like to know. Never heard from the person again. And I think the person got the message. I wasn't disrespectful. I just gave them the message, but I gave it on their own terms. So, inferring that the integrity commissioner is not doing his job, obviously you've been appointed that position. I don't know what an integrity commissioner does other than trying to keep peace across the province with other councillors. I'm sure this is not the first complaint you've had from any council across the province. And to say that you're not doing the proper thing, I can't judge you on that because I don't know what your actual qualifications are. I mean, I hope you have a university degree. I hope that you've gone to law school. I'm sure you have, or you wouldn't be sitting in that position of power and integrity that somebody thought that you could do the job. So by me saying, well, I don't go with your report, I can't go along with that. I have to respect what you're saying. And to infer that, well, you know, you want to know exactly what the comment is meant to be. Well, if you've made the comment and you can't see if there's any damage, then somebody is telling you, somebody else said there's some damage here. You should be thinking about that. And I had a discussion with a rather intellectual fellow a couple of nights ago. We were talking politics across the world. And we talked about a country, and this has nothing to do with Gaza or Israel, country far away, not in that area, surrounded by 8 other countries. And they're all picking on this one country for a particular reason. And the country in the middle that's being picked on, are they doing the right thing? If 10 people are saying you're doing the wrong thing, and the one person in the middle says, no, I'm not, 10 other people are saying, from our observations, you're not doing the correct thing. So it's just not me and another person, it's 10 other qualified people who can see, you know, through the smoke and the mirrors. So anyways, free debate, sure. Debate should take place in Parliament. If you're out of line, you get booted. Those are the rules of order. If you step out, if you say something inappropriate, a swear word, you're chastised. So why would it be any different than here? This is local government, which is, you know, a precursor to the provincial, the federal government. Aren't we government? Of course we're government. So I think we have to gauge ourselves in some aspects as to what we're doing right or wrong. And if we don't do that, then anybody can rule the community. Then why have a council? Why have a mayor? Why have a staff? Thank you. And to say, excuse me, one more thing. I would have to think about the recommendations. Those are recommendations from the Integrity Commissioner. He didn't say you have to do that, but if a council decides they have to do it to send a message, and there's more than one person sending that message, then so be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Does anyone, I guess we're making comments in general about the nature of the report itself. Eventually, we have to get to the recommendations part, but Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, tonight we have the Integrity Commissioner's report. Councillor Purcell has spoken. We need to move beyond the negativity and division and recognize the primary focus of working together as a team for the betterment of the community. Positive communication, transparency, and accountability are essential now and in the future. Personally, speaking from my own personal perspective, I do not agree with this particular process in this incident. This could have been handled and addressed internally, and I won't be supporting any of the recommendations.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to Councillor Lafreniere?
Just briefly, you know, we had an election a year ago. New faces around the table, new energies, maybe not a general understanding of what the way that the meetings have gone in the past. Speaking through the chair, speaking in generalities rather than speaking, and I understand everything that's happened. But let's face it, this term got off, boom, explosions, like in every direction. And we were all running to think, oh my gosh, like, what can I say? And I mean, I know that I was scrutinized for saying some things in meetings, and I was scrutinized by Councillor Purcell, when we were talking about diversity, and I chose the wrong words, and I got blasted. So, yes, I agree, we should. No, I'm just trying to.
Point of order, that we are talking about the comments that were made on April the 18th. And Pat?
Excuse me, but Councillor
Just one person.
Keel went on and on about court cases.
One person at a time.
Councillor, do not go there.
This
I
is
said
to
a
your
point of
defense.
order.
Okay, one person at a time. Councillor Frenier, can you
Your
attempt to?
worship, you will have to deal on the point of order, I believe is the protocol, your worship. You have to deal on the
So,
point.
Councillor Frenier, can you limit your comments to the issue in terms of the report, not in terms of what Councillor Purcell may or may not have said to you?
Okay, I'm just going to say, is it because I'm a female? Because I know that Councillor Keel just stated all kinds of court cases all across the country of different matters. What I'm trying to do is compare apples to apples. I spoke freely. I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I think what I'm saying is, in my opinion, Councillor Purcell was speaking passionately. And maybe he wasn't aware of what it was going to be perceived at a staff level as criticism. And so that is what I'm saying, that I have been in those shoes in a different way, where people took words and said, they twisted it to whatever they thought maybe it meant. So what I'm saying here is, we all started off in a very heated environment. So when I'm looking at this is the first time I've seen this. So yes, this has bearing. So I take this quite seriously because we've never gotten to this point. But in this climate, in this toxic environment, I think we all have to take a breath and say, have we learned anything from this? All of us. And we can speak eloquently, but get our points across. And I have worked closely with all the councillors, the new councillors as well, on many different projects. And you know what? I'm excited about this term now. But going back to April, I was not that excited. I was fearful. I didn't want to speak at meetings. And so that is not the environment we want. So I want everyone here to be mindful. Let's move forward from this. I want staff to know that I respect them. So any decision here should not be taken like they don't care. This is a learning process for all of us, but going forward, I think we should really take this seriously and be mindful of how we are speaking about inadequacy in process in the city of Pembroke. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this matter before we can move forward with what we're, Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Worship. Just going over, again, reading from the Code of Conduct, every member has the, has the duty to respectfully to treat members of the public, staff, and each other with a respectful manner without abuse, bullying, harassment, or intimidation. Reading the comments listed, I don't see the grounds for this inquiry or this level of Code of Conduct breach. I read the comments, I think back to that day, Councillor Purcell presented these comments quite, I don't have the words for it, but thank you, passionately. He was very passionate. Those comments may have came off as a bit harsh, but I don't think it was in the realm of to be disrespectful, with abuse, bullying, or harassment. So with that being said, I would not support the sanctions being recommended by the Integrity Commissioner. Thank you.
Mr. Jacquinot?
Comment, Your Worship, thank you. And a lot has been said tonight, and I think we're all here to help the public. Not one of us is here to try and destroy the process. we have to work together, there's no doubt about that. Presentation, when you're talking to people, is so important, body language, et cetera. You know, if I'm in your face and I'm pointing the finger at you, people react to that, you know. But if you have more of a genteel voice, or you're looking to accommodate, or you want to discuss, nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, somebody out there put in a complaint. So they must have viewed that as some sort of an affront to either us, to the staff, or why would they have done that?
Thank you. I'll let Deputy Mayor speak, and then I'm going to comment.
We all support staff. We have an excellent staff. They multitask. We all support staff. And yes, the term got off to a rocky road. We had 2 committees canceled. It, divided the community. We moved forward. Councillor Purcell, in my personal opinion, was frustrated. He wanted to get things done. He frustrated. He spoke. And yes, some of his words were harsh. They might have hurt some people. But he spoke tonight and he said it was not his intent to do that. He didn't mean that. He spoke out of process, as Councillor Keel said. So I think he was frustrated. For first time being on council, I knew his mom and dad personally, and they were passionate people, and their son is like that. And so I think he didn't mean, he didn't mean to say it that way, the intent. So I think it was out of frustration, and he was more upset with the process of how things get done. And when I first got elected, former Mayor LeMay told me that things take time, and they do take time. And I'm hoping that this council can sort of speed things up, to get things done. But there's only so much money in the budget and so much staff, right? So that's why it takes time. And then we have provincial government that takes time, and federal, so things drag on. So that's the reality of it. But like I said before, he did say, it wasn't his intent to the way it was taken by some people. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor. So if no one has any issue with myself speaking to the matter, so we've made it through a little bit better than a year at this particular point in terms of this council. Obviously lots of different personalities around the table. We're all elected. We're all meaning to do the best that we can for the citizens, or else we wouldn't be here. I firmly believe that. I can say that with the benefit of a year of getting to know Councillor Purcell, which is what this subject matter is about, that Councillor Purcell's heart is on his sleeve. So for some that say passionate, you can use whatever word you wish, but I know with the issue of the warming centre a few meetings back, and I'm trying not to veer off, but a few meetings back in terms of the intensity or the passion, the heart on the sleeve, we've come to know that Councillor Purcell is passionate about things. So I'm familiar with that at this juncture. I'm aware of that. To Councillor Jacquinot's position, clearly someone saw fit to make a complaint and utilize the process that has been instituted by the Ontario government. This wasn't something the City of Pembroke decided to dream up. This was created by the province, requiring an integrity commissioner, a process, a code of conduct, and so forth to address issues. And we don't have to look too far that there's neighboring municipalities that have gone through this process. Luckily, to date, we've never had to go through this process, but we are addressing it this evening. I would like to think that, as has been said by some, is that it's a learning experience, that we move forward. We come together for the benefit of the citizens of the City of Pembroke. That's why we're elected. That's why we're here, is to make things happen. I recognize that perhaps the municipal government doesn't move forward as quick as some would like. It is the process that we have, and we can attempt to do things to move it forward. And at times, and we've even seen it with the County of Renfrew, there's times that things are moved along even faster given the necessity, and in particular talking about the warming center, and I did thank the warden for the moving things forward very quickly in that process. When normally things take a lot longer, and that may frustrate certain individuals depending upon your personality. But I do believe that we need to, at all times, reflect upon when we're saying things and acting both at this table, but also as members, moving about in our community. People see us as elected individuals, and that hat never gets taken off. And I know that has been shared with a few members around this table, that they will always, ratepayers, view you as a member of this council. You are no longer just an individual in the community. You are an elected member, and you're representing Pembroke, and there's a certain level of expectation as to what you're conducting and how you're conducting yourself on behalf of the city of Pembroke. So, in short, as I understand it, this is the process. We have this report, and whether I guess that this council likes the decision or not, the Integrity Commissioner had a job to do. He investigated it and did what he was required to do. And it then comes down to recommendations, and certainly I'm going to be asking for something in respect to how it is, like what sanction, if any, and so that we can move forward. But I get very much the sense that this council, and I'm very proud of this council, that listening to all of you, that we're pulling together for the benefit of the city of Pembroke, for the ratepayers, and that as long as we're cognizant of when we're speaking that sometimes people interpret us or listen to us and perhaps think different things, we have to be cautious about how we express our thoughts. We can be passionate, but be concerned that how it is that we're expressing that to others so that it's not misinterpreted. So very proud of this council that we're pulling together, and that we must do so in order to advance the good of the city of Pembroke. But I do hear the submissions of Councillor Purcell in terms of what he had thought. I know that we have great staff, and we need to make sure that we debate the issue. And I can think back a number of years we debate the issue, but when we leave, no one is, to be angry with each other. We're not. This isn't personal, and it's to be careful about how we express ourselves so that it isn't personal. It's we're debating whatever the particular issue is, but being cognizant of that so that we're not potentially running afoul of different things and ruining the relationship that we need. It doesn't mean we have to all be friends and chummy, but it means that we need to have a certain working relationship for the benefit of the community, which is ultimately why we're here. So that's my thoughts from my perspective. So if I understand this correctly, Mr. Fleming is, and I wrote down these two particular points. One is how the report is to be made public, and secondly, a concept in respect to the recommendations. Is that fair?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So does someone wish to, without going on all night just because our agenda is light, does someone wish to address the first issue in terms of how to make it public? I don't know if that's a motion. Again, my ignorance, because we've never been through this before.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Councillor Purcell?
Was this provided? I didn't really look in terms of the agenda package that was already publicized on Fridays. The package that.
Councillor Purcell, you have to stand as code of conduct. Thank you.
Was this part of the package that went out on Friday that was posted on our website? So it's already gone public then.
So good question, and let's see what it is in terms of from staff.
So I just got clarification, Your Worship, that in regards to what's published on the website is just the agenda, not the complete package. So the package was sent out on Friday to council. However, the media did receive the package on Monday.
Okay, so having said that, Mr. Fleming, it's already been provided to media, so is there a necessity for a formal motion? Does this process require that?
Through you, Your Worship, it's council's decision as to whether or not you believe that the report has been made public sufficiently for your purposes. It doesn't require necessarily a resolution, but council does need to turn its mind to the question of how the report should be made public, and in this case, whether what has been done is sufficient.
Thank you. So if I can ask the question of members of council, do you believe that, and perhaps if we can just have some sort of direction in relation to, has it been made public enough? So we can address number one. Councillor Lafreniere.
It is, in my opinion, that sufficient public coverage of this issue I think it's sufficient.
Other members of council, Councillor Giacono?
Your Worship, earlier tonight I heard Councillor Purcell, and I admire him for his tenacity. His mom and dad, his father probably went over the hills in Korea. I wouldn't want to have been on the other side of that attack because I know there would probably be no backing off, and that's his type of personality. I did hear this evening, correct me if I'm wrong, that Councillor Purcell may have indicated that he meant no ill feelings towards council, that it wasn't done in that purpose. Does that constitute an apology, or is that just a statement?
So thank you for that, Councillor Giacono, but perhaps when we get to this, my second inquiry in relation to, is there a motion for some sort of sanction, if any, is how I keep expressing it, but can we, and we will get back to that, but, can I have some sort of sense from council as to whether you believe that it's been made public enough in terms of how it's been addressed? Councillor Plummer.
So just clarification, maybe I missed that from our CEO. So the package has been sent to the media on Monday, so they have received it. Therefore, that would constitute being made public, to my knowledge.
Okay, so I have two members of council agreeing. I have Councillor Plummer and Councillor Lafreniere that it's been made public enough. Can I have some sort of sense from, I got three, yes, Councillor, or Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, Your Worship. So, just to clarify that it did go to our local media. Just also maybe a point of order within our code of conduct and that everyone signed, and when we're talking about the policy and the process, items 26 does stipulate that the report of the Integrity Commissioner shall be published by posting the report on the municipal website and making a copy available to all members of council and the members of the board or committee as applicable. So I would just put that out there as a possibility also.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Unruh. So Councillor Keel.
I'll restate my earlier motion. I move that this council resolves that it does not, that this council resolves with respect to the report of the Integrity Commissioner dated the date that it's dated, respecting Councillor Purcell, that this council does not fully agree with the report, and that a copy of that resolution be posted on the City of Pembroke's website with a copy of the report pursuant to the Code of Conduct requirement.
Can that be repeated, please?
That's why I didn't sit down. That this council resolves that with respect to the report dated the date that it was dated with respect to Councillor Purcell, that this council does not, can we play back on YouTube? That this council does not agree fully with the report, and that a copy of this resolution be posted on the City of Pembroke's website with a copy of the report in accordance with the code of conduct.
Mr. Enra?
Before we ask for a seconder, Your Worship, I would turn to the Integrity Commissioner. Like in regards to the code of conduct and the recommendations for the report, I don't see that as an option by council, but I'd seek direction from the Integrity Commissioner on that.
Through you, Your Worship, council has any number of options available to it. The only mandated items that council needs to address that are dealt with in the Municipal Act are addressing how it will be made public and addressing the recommendations. So those two matters need to be dealt with by council. If Councillor Kuhl's motion is seconded and approved by council can comment on my report however they wish and do with the report what they wish, so long as there is some element of making the report public.
I'll second.
Okay, and it's seconded by
I'll second the motion.
the Deputy Mayor. Any other discussion in terms of that particular motion? Okay, call the question. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Against? It's carried, so that motion carries. 3, 2, yeah. Councillor Keel?
So just to clarify, I just saw 3 hands and there was only 2, so 1 abstained, was it?
I don't know, so let's do it again. I only saw 3 and then 2. So there was 3 in favor, so those in favor is 1, 2, 3, and, okay, 4 now. So 4. So it was carried then? No, so it's 4 in favor, so it was carried.
Can we ask the integrity, can Councillor Purcell vote on the resolution and the posting of the Integrity Commissioner?
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Purcell has a pecuniary interest in the matter, and so that is only exempted or accepted by virtue of the very specific provisions in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act that allow Councillor Purcell to speak to the penalty only. All other aspects of the report as to whether it's made public and the recommendations, obviously, et cetera, still carry that pecuniary interest component. So there's no voting that would be permitted by Councillor Purcell on this matter.
It's still 4-2 then.
Could you explain the pecuniary interest of Councillor Purcell in not agreeing with the report and posting the report on the website? What's the monetary interest in this motion? I will not have a question about the sanction. That one's obvious.
Through you, Your Worship, the report itself contains a recommendation for a financial penalty. Therefore, there is a pecuniary interest in the report, and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act provides that no member of council may attempt to influence the vote, participate in the debate, or vote on a matter where they have a pecuniary interest. There is a pecuniary interest created by the nature of the report and the recommendation itself. The exception in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act speaks to allowing the member to attempt to influence council with respect to penalty only. So the balance of the report is still captured by the pecuniary interest.
Okay, thank you. So that addresses point number 1. Councillor Keel, is it point number 2?
I move that council not sanction Councillor Purcell with respect to the report dated, the date that it's dated, involving Councillor Purcell.
Seconder for that motion. Deputy Mayor again. Any discussion? Councillor Frenier?
Just clarification, now are we dealing with the... Sorry, thank you for the reminder. Are we dealing with the recommendation now? Yes. For the penalties? Yes. Would that include the apology as well, or just the pecuniary, the financial? The whole package? Okay. I would like to comment then further on it. Okay.
By all means.
So I agree that maybe no financial penalty. And I know that we heard that there was no malice intent. However, malice intent was received by whomever. So I'm wondering if Councillor Purcell would consider his explanation in a letter to whoever submitted the complaints, just explaining that his intentions were not malice, and that he was new at the game and he just wanted to see some changes implemented. So I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know how we go about that. Do we ask him directly? So anyway, that's just my question, because I think that means a lot to me.
So, Mr. Fleming, did you want to comment before we get further comment from councillors?
This is completely in council's hands, your worship. Whether council wants to split out the two recommendations into two separate resolutions, how you want to address either of them, completely at council's discretion.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell?
The comments in terms that I spoke to about tonight still stand, and I have no further comment.
So the motion is for no sanction, correct, Councillor Keel? I got to look past the poinsettias. And it was seconded. Any other discussion in terms of that particular motion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor of that motion of no sanction, and that includes apologies and whatever, and against? So it's a tie vote, so that motion fails. Any other motions in respect to recommendations/sanctions? Councillor Frenier.
I would move we separate the two sanctions. Can we
Perhaps,
address them
Councillor Frenier,
separately?
can you articulate in a motion what you believe to be the appropriate,
I would
sanctions?
move that
Thank you.
we eliminate the financial penalty and maintain the letter to the complainant.
So the difficulty maybe with that motion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fleming, is that the complainants are confidential and unknown, or at least unknown. So I don't know who Councillor Purcell would be writing to. Am I right, Mr. Fleming?
Public apology, so.
Okay, well, so,
I can speak to that point, your worship.
thank you.
The identity of the complainants is confidential and will remain confidential. In our report, when I recommended an apology, it would have been a recommendation, and again, subject to council's refinement or discussion, apology in a public forum, not a letter to each individual complainant. Just a generic apology would be what I was considering in the report.
Thank you. So Councillor Frenier, does that assist in terms of a motion as to what you're thinking?
It absolutely does, and it doesn't have to be a full apology. If someone is not sorry for saying something, but just an explanation that, no malice intent.
Do I understand correctly, and we'll see if there's a seconder for it, you're making a motion that not recommendation anymore, that the sanction be an apology that there was no malice intended by the comments made. Is that, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to get to the heart of what that motion is.
Basically, just a letter explaining his position. So, really.
That would be made publicly or not publicly? Okay. Is there a seconder for that one? Councillor Giacono.
I will second it, your worship, with the intent that I believe that Councillor Purcell already said he's going to stand by what he mentioned tonight, and there's no deviation from that. I just want to clarify that before the vote is taken. Thank you.
We have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Keel.
I do appreciate, and I want to be very clear with Councillor Frenier not to take this the wrong way. I will never support this kind of sanction. And I do so again, quoting the Supreme Court of Canada, wherein the Labour Board was requiring a company to write a letter to its shareholders. And Justice Beats, I believe.
Point of order, your worship. Are we dealing with the Supreme Court of Canada on decisions here, or we're dealing with the decision that's taking place here internally with this council, not based on past case law history?
So, Councillor Keel, perhaps if you can just make the argument without citing decisions, I guess.
Are you saying that I can't choose my arguments, Your Worship?
I'm saying we've been debating this for an hour.
It's one paragraph, Your Worship.
Fine, Councillor Keel, and then
With
just the
respect
one
to, with
paragraph.
respect to Councillor Giacono, all of us are the subject of the laws of Canada. And the Supreme Court is the highest arbiter of those laws. And what the Supreme Court said of the
Point of
required...
order, Your Worship, maybe this should be discussed in the Supreme Court then, rather than this setting.
Your Worship, that's not a point of order.
Yes, it is.
So, Councillor Keel, if you can give us the quote that you want to give us, and then if there's no other conversation regarding this matter, we'll call the question.
So with respect to requiring the corporation to write a letter, they said this type of penalty is totalitarian and as such alien to the tradition of free nations like Canada, even for the repression of the most serious crimes. I cannot be persuaded that the Parliament of Canada intended to confer on the Canada Labour Relations Board the power to impose such extreme measures, even assuming that it could confer such a power, bearing in mind the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression. These freedoms guarantee to every person the right to express the opinions he may have. A fortiori, they must prohibit compelling anyone to utter opinions that are not his own. That is what I'm getting at, is that we don't have compelled speech in Canada. You can't, a government entity such as a council should not be able to force any member to make any statement.
Okay, so any other debate in terms of the motion in respect to the public letter? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor of that one? Oh,
Your Worship,
yes?
can you please reread the motion? Reread the motion. A lot's been said.
So I'm just looking to staff to,
So the motion was moved by Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Giacono, that council eliminate the financial penalty, but keep a public letter apology in a public forum. Something to that effect.
does that reflect,
For
Councillor?
what it's worth, yes.
Okay. Okay, so call the question. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Against? Tie vote, that motion fails.
I ask for a recorded vote on compelling a member of this council to apologize.
Madam Clerk?
Is that another motion, Your Worship? Because the motion has been tabled?
So-
Not tabled, but it's been voted on?
The last time
Yeah.
Councillor Giacono, the last time I looked at the procedural bylaw, as long as the request for a recorded vote is immediately after the vote, it is permissible. I have reviewed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no. Well, so staff gave the motion, all this at this point is to record the vote that was already just taken. Just looking to the clerk in terms of, to be able to record what that vote was, because the vote's already taken.
Deputy Mayor Abdallah?
Read the motion again. Please read the motion again.
So it was moved by Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Giacono, that council eliminate the financial penalty, but keep a letter of public position in a public forum.
Nay.
Councillor Giacono?
Yes.
Councillor Keel?
Excuse me, yes.
Councillor Keel?
Nay.
Councillor Lafreniere?
Yes.
Councillor Plummer?
Nay.
And Mayor Ron Gerba.
It was yay. So that's what the vote, it was just recording what it is that, I appreciate what the request was, but it was to record what the vote was already. So, next motion, any other motions?
I move that we table this matter indefinitely.
So,
Just, point of order, worship, I'm just wondering, oops, sorry. In regards to the integrity commissioner,
Yes.
I thought that that is one of the things that has to be ruled on today.
Through you, your worship, if council cannot decide on a sanction, then council cannot decide on a sanction. It may simply be that you're unable to pass a resolution with respect to a sanction one way or another.
hey,
I
Mr.
can't make you vote one way or the other, your worship, or any member on council. If you can't decide, you can't decide. A non-vote is still a decision.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask Mr. Fleming. So is a motion to table necessary, or is it just that we don't come to a solution in relation to that portion of your report?
I think either, excuse me, yeah, your worship, I think either option would be available to council. I'm not familiar with your procedural bylaw as to whether a motion to table is subject to debate or whether now that it's on the floor, it needs to be seconded. I'd look to the clerk for those points of clarification.
I believe that the motion would need to be seconded, but once it's tabled, there's no discussion.
That's my understanding of what the clerk is indicating. So is there a seconder?
Just
It's-
for clarification, Councillor Keel, what is it you're tabling then? Can you clarify?
That we finish with this matter and move on.
Okay, I second that.
So there's a motion to table, seconded by the deputy mayor, and I agree with what the Madam Clerk is indicating, that ours indicates that there is no discussion on a motion to table. So we'll call the question. Those in favor of tabling? 1, 2, 3. Against? 3. We're still tied. May I suggest then to council that we're simply at a loggerhead in respect to the decision, and simply we don't make any decision in respect to that particular item, because we can't even seemingly agree whether to motion to table it or not. Is that, Councillor Frenier?
Point of clarification. So we voted on the concessions, or we voted on that, and that's final. Is this not a finished matter anyway?
So, Councillor Frenier, that's what I'm suggesting to you, is that we voted, and it was a tie vote, which means it failed in respect to the first motion. We voted in terms of a second motion, in terms of a public letter. And so what I'm suggesting to council, but I'm looking for some sort of agreement from this council, is that seeing as we did both motions and we didn't, unless someone wants to come up with a totally different type of suggestion in terms of a quote-unquote sanction, what I'm going to suggest, as was the case in a number of times, this council just simply chooses to not address the matter further. That's happened with this council before, when we addressed a particular matter and we couldn't do a negative motion, and then we just ended it. Councillor Plummer.
I suggest we just agree to disagree. I would make a motion that we agree to disagree. If that, or just, we don't need a motion, or just move on.
And that's what I'm suggesting, Councillor Plummer, is that we're agreeing to disagree, and we simply move on to the next order of business, which would be bylaws.
Okay.
So is that the general, can I see some nods? Okay, so I see some nods. I want to thank you, Mr. Fleming, for indulging us and providing us a lot of different answers to some questions. Again, we had never been through this process before, and so do appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you, your worship. Good evening, council.
Okay, good evening. Okay, moving ahead, we have bylaws. The first bylaw that we have this evening is 2023-83, parking bylaw, Supple Street and Centre Street. Councillor Giacono.
Sorry, your worship, it's been a long day for me. Where are we? Which bylaw? I apologize.
I believe you have bylaw 2023-83, parking bylaw, Supple
Yes,
Street
right
and
in
Centre
front of me.
Street.
Thank you, your worship. Members of council, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2023-83 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-74 is amended, being a bylaw to regulate and control the parking of vehicles in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. and further that the bylaw be signed by yourself, your worship, the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation, and awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, second by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2023-83, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-74 as amended, being a bylaw to regulate and control parking of vehicles in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono, do you wish to speak to this one?
Thank you, your worship. This was discussed earlier and proceeded with by members of council.
Okay, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, next one is 2023-84, zoning bylaw amendment 588 Pembroke Street East, and I have Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2023-84, a bylaw to authorize the amendment of zoning bylaw 2020-05 regarding 588 Pembroke Street East be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2023-84, a bylaw to authorize the amendment of zoning bylaw 2020-05 regarding 588 Pembroke Street East be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
This bylaw, your worship, was previously discussed at the planning committee, and it involves rezoning of the property at 588 Pembroke Street East to an R2 zone from an R1. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor, and that is carried. The last bylaw for this evening is 2023-85, and it's regarding a parking amendment at 10 Nelson Street. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, your worship. Members of council, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2023-85, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement between 2284408 Ontario Incorporated and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by yourself, your worship, and the clerk, and sealed with the official seal of the corporation, waiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2023-85, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement between 2284408 Ontario Inc. and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, your worship. This was discussed earlier by council and agreed to.
You call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. So, at this time, if I could call upon the Deputy Mayor to take the chair in respect to motions.
Be noted that the mayor has left the table because he declared a pecuniary interest. Motion, Resolution 2023-022, declared proposed Lot 46 in the James W. LaPointe Motor Holdings Incorporated Plan of Subdivision as surplus. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Resolution number 2023-022, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke declares the following land as surplus and gives notice of the proposed sale of land. The piece of land is located in the James W. LaPointe Motor Holdings Inc. Plan of Subdivision located off Boundary Road West. The plan of subdivision proposes 45 lots for single detached dwellings on Eddy Crescent. Eddy Crescent is not yet assumed by the City of Pembroke. The developer would like to create a 46th lot from land that is currently owned by the City of Pembroke. The property is legally described as part of lots 34 and 35, concession 1, and being part of Part 1 on Reference Plan 49R 3187, City of Pembroke. The proposed Lot 46 would have a frontage of 61 feet by a depth of 101 feet for a total lot area of approximately 6,161 square feet. The proposed Lot 46 is presently zoned open space and would require rezoning to match the remainder of the subdivision, which is residential type 2 R2.
you like me to read that all again? Did you get all the information?
With the unanimous consent of council, I think we could defer a second reading.
Right, thank you. Those in favor? Carried.
Evening, everyone. My pleasure to bring to you my mayor's report. As stated, the last number of council meetings with fall upon us and the increased risk of flu and COVID, I'd ask that everyone be mindful of this and do their part in helping reduce the risk. Regarding invitations and appearances, on November 9th, I had the pleasure to attend the official opening of Nourish You Wellness at 159 Pembroke Street West, together with the Deputy Mayor. Please join me in welcoming the owners, Dr. Allen and Jane Wood, to the Pembroke business community. Nourish You practices neuropathic medicine, nutrition, mindfulness in Renfrew County for the past decade. They are passionate about bringing holistic healthcare options to our community. Their services can be accessed by anyone to support their health. November 10th, the CAO and I had the pleasure to attend one of the facilities locally of Columbus House. Columbus House's mission is to improve the quality of life for youth in Renfrew County by providing structured, supportive, and safe residential and day programs in an environment while producing their education and training of individuals between the ages of 16 to 21. It was a great meeting, lots of discussion with the executive director, supervisors, and board members. Later that day, the Terry O'Neill Silver Stick Tournament kicked off with the ceremonial puck drop. Pembroke will host this great hockey for individuals near and far. Please join me in welcoming the players, families, and friends to the Pembroke community, and I encourage hockey lovers to take in some very great hockey. On November 11th, marked Remembrance Day, I had the honor to attend at the Pembroke Cenotaph to lay a wreath on behalf of the residents of the city of Pembroke, lest we forget. On November 14th, I had the pleasure to attend the grand reopening of the Western Financial Group at their new location, 10 Nelson Street, a great institution here in the heart of the Ottawa Valley. Had the pleasure to meet with the many staff and be welcomed by the Grinch, which was extra special for me. In addition to the ribbon cutting at Western, Western presented the Pembroke Candy Bus with a financial donation that will be well utilized by that service. Later that day, it was my privilege to meet with Dr. Bell at Christie Street Animal Hospital. She's been practicing for 40 years and more than 20 years in the city of Pembroke. Most proud to have a long-standing, dedicated person in our community such as Dr. Bell. It was a privilege to provide her with a scroll and acknowledge her great work for our citizens. On November 18th, I had the pleasure to attend Zaytuna together with the Deputy Mayor for a grand opening at 183 Pembroke Street West. This restaurant serves amazing food and is a delight to attend. If anyone's curious as to why I'm giving the addresses, I had received a comment from one resident saying, can you please give the addresses so that we can attend these locations? So it may sound redundant to you, but there's a reason why I'm doing that. Later that day, I had the pleasure to attend at the Pembroke Legion Awards at Branch 72. Many volunteers that make our community a great place that it is. It was a pleasure to attend at the Pembroke Legion for the purpose of recognizing the many volunteers that help in so many ways. Pembroke Branch 72 recognized not only Mr. Yakubuski in terms of provincial support for Branch 72 and Legion branches generally, but they did recognize the city of Pembroke and the great relationship that we have with Branch 72 and all the great work that they do. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that they do very much recognize us as just as much as every time I attend. I do recognize the great relationship we have with them and the donations and the work that they do in our community, including but not limited to the Kiwanis Toy and Food Drive. On November 19th, it was my pleasure to attend the OSPCA MASH-style spay-neuter clinic. Thank you to Heather Job and all of the volunteers for making this happen. It was very educational to see behind the scenes. It was held at the Pembroke Fire Department. Special thanks to the Pembroke Fire Department for allowing that room to be utilized for that clinic. It was a full room of lots of kitty cats, and they had an area dedicated to the surgeries, another area dedicated to where the recovery was, and just very well oiled, and all volunteers that were there, including one individual that works at CNL by trade, if you will, but was there, and just a numerous number of different individuals. In fact, some coming from out of the area to go to support this initiative, and it was recognized that they had a hard time getting a hotel because of the Silver Stick going on, and all the hotels were booked. Just one upcoming event that I just want to bring to your attention is November 23rd, the spaghetti dinner put on by The Grind for the kickoff of CNOY, so Coolest Night of the Year 2024. They're having their spaghetti dinner, and so if anyone, I encourage people to support The Grind, support that initiative, and we know everything that we're going through, and the great work being spearheaded by Councillor Purcell in relation to the warming center. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. That brings us to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Councillor Frenier.
Yes, I want to just remind everyone, this weekend is the Santa Claus Parade, and it starts at 5:30 from Metro and then travels west to Christie Street. Deputy Mayor and I will be hosting it on your TV again this year, and I urge everyone to come on out, dress warm, and Councillor Keel is going to be one of the judges, so make sure you're looking and smiling in his direction. Yeah, well, I think he'll show up. So anyway, and the fire hall is having their chili cook-off, I believe, this Thursday. And that's always well attended, so get there early before the chili sells out. I believe it starts at 11 a.m. and goes till the chili runs out, till 2 o'clock. Just kudos, I'm going to give some kudos, and I believe Councillor Purcell is going to update everyone on the warming center, but I have never seen the spirit of collaboration like I have seen it lately between the county, Laurentian Valley, City of Pembroke, and now Petawawa here, in coming up with a warming center. And I want to thank this council for supporting it and supporting the location. And like I said, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but Councillor Purcell was appointed to the ad hoc committee for this initiative. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell.
Mayor. Couple good news stories. I'll just kind of feed off with Councillor Lafreniere stated. Last night, Petawawa Council approved $20,000 for the warming center payable immediately. I just wanted to send a huge thank you to our neighbors in terms of assisting us with this wonderful project. And so far we've got $220,000 in dollars to support the operations this year, which is really just remarkable. I've been fielding numerous calls in terms of individuals wanting to provide support. You're going to be hearing about some fundraising campaigns as well that are going forward in terms of how people could sponsor chairs and help assist with the operations. We should be up and running, hopefully. We're looking at December 1st. In terms of having a 50-foot by 12-foot trailer available and operational to allow those individuals to get refuge from the cold. So kudos to this council, kudos to the county and Petawawa, and as well as the Laurentian Valley. Together, we can do a lot together, and I think this is just the start of building these types of relationships with our neighbors, and we can continue the momentum on to bigger and better things. So thank you so much.
Did you say what it was?
$20,000. And the location is actually located at the farmers market. The 12 by 50 foot trailer will be backed with the back facing Lake Street, with the entry facing underneath the covered area of the market area, so give some protection again from wind and those kinds of things. And there's going to be a standalone washroom facilities, men's and women's washroom facilities. And I need to also thank those individuals from PACT, Pembroke and Community Task Force, and also the Grind for the great work that they continue to do in terms of supporting individuals that are most vulnerable. So kudos to everyone, and I think it's, like I said, it's going to be a great initiative, for everybody to get behind. Another good news story, our Pembroke Library, what a center of excellence. You know, we have, they actually received their accreditation with a score of, and this is just really impressive, 99.4%. They got 100% in terms of all the major areas in regards to the accreditation. So the great work that Karthi Rajamani, our CEO of the library, as well as the library staff, do a wonderful job. I know I patron the library more so now. I know I brought my 2-year-old grandson there for story times and also opportunity to do play dates. Just an awesome facility to have in our, you know, in our community, and the amount and the effort that they put behind initiatives is just phenomenal. You know, last weekend they actually hosted the Christmas Bazaar there as well, and had the opportunity to attend that. Every day there's activities going on, so if you don't know what the library has to offer, you know, please check out the website, and by all means, you know, sign up, get a card. That is it for my updates currently, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Other councillor updates, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things here. After Zaytuna, we had a nice breakfast of feta cheese and grilled cheese, my wife and I, and we met you there and everybody else. We went down to the Seventh Heaven Suites, which is run by Leanne Hurley and staff, because they were celebrating their 2nd anniversary. And you should see the size of the butter tarts, and oh, they're phenomenally good. Oh my. Just wanted to shout out to some local restaurants who are doing a hashtag helping someone in need, where you donate a meal and then someone goes in and gets a meal. It was started at Nelson Street Pub and it spread through Pembroke, and now it's going across Canada, so it's a very good gesture. And Nita at Thai Garden is giving free soup every Saturday, and you can go in and have a free bowl of soup for anyone in need, or if you want a bowl of soup, and you can also donate to her jar for ingredients for the following Saturday. I dropped into the Silver Stick, and I know the mayor mentioned the opening, and I was sitting there watching the game, and Denny Stewart walked by. We all know Dennis Stewart. And I said to him, and this is the 39th annual Terry O'Neill Silver Stick, and I said, Denny, how long have you been doing this for, a volunteer for the Silver Stick? He said, 36 years. And so we'd all know Norbert Chaput, the chair of the group, and you know, it's phenomenal, how this affects the economy. It puts Pembroke on the map, and the kids play hockey, and it's just a great news story. So just want to shout out to the Silver Stick Committee and all the volunteers, and such a great thing that we have in Pembroke. Good news, Louis Schreier and Friends Senior Christmas Concert was confirmed, and it's going to be the weekend of December 15th to 16th at our local retirement homes. 7 or 8 concerts in 2 days. So Louis is a 4-time Canadian Grandmaster champion and puts on a great show with step dancers and fiddlers and children also. The Moonlight Madness is this Friday at the PBA downtown, 5 till 10, so come on down and get some deals. And in addition to what Councillor Purcell said, just so you know behind the scenes what goes on, I want to put a shout out to the farmers market for approving the location of the land for the warming centre. I'm the council rep for the farmers market, and I received a call from Steve Boland last Friday requesting to arrange a meeting. So phone calls and texts later, and approval was given Friday evening, and then we all met down with Councillor Purcell for a site inspection on the Saturday morning. So we want to, quick turnaround, no issue, community support. So it's all about partnerships, as you were mentioning. So thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Keel?
Your Worship, the only thing I have is the Festival Hall update. Lots still going on between now and the end of the year. Coming up on November 28th, the Algonquin College Speaker Series presents Julian Scher. He's going to be speaking about the Stephen Truscott matter. So Mr. Truscott was someone that was initially found guilty by the courts. He was actually sentenced to death. He was reprieved when former Prime Minister Trudeau got rid of the death penalty, and then many years later, after being in jail, his conviction was actually overturned on new evidence at the Supreme Court. After that, we have the AC/DC Christmas show on Saturday, December 2nd. I understand that was very popular last year. It's making a comeback. There's still some seats available for that. And Saturday, December 9th, the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra Nutcracker with a Twist. So that should be interesting. And later this week, I believe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's at least 3 more nights of the Frozen, the youth Frozen series, and I look forward to seeing people there. Probably Thursday night, I think, is when I'm going to go and attend that. I've heard wonderful things. The seats are selling unbelievably, so I would encourage everyone to go show support for their youth presentation, and it sounds like it's a wonderful event.
Thank you. So before calling for the confirming bylaw, just to give you an update in terms of Mr. Montgomery, so December 1st at Murphy's Funeral Home will be the visitation. December 2nd at Wesley United Church at 11 a.m. is the funeral. Just putting that out there because I would hope that members of the City of Pembroke family would support the family at this difficult time. Confirming bylaw, I have Councillor Frenier.
I will stand. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that bylaw 26-2023 to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council of November 21st, 2023 be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. There you go.
Moved by Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Keel. That bylaw 26-2023 to confirm the proceeding of the meeting of council November 21st, 2023 be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? And that is carried. Is there a motion to adjourn? I have the deputy mayor, Councillor Plummer. It's like no one wanted to adjourn that. Those in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.